5 minutes with the cameras, then you get your private visit. The administrator smiled. Michael didn't. The fluorescent lights hummed above, a frequency most people tuned out. Michael heard it. He heard everything in that corridor, the soft beep of a distant monitor, the rubber squeak of a nurse's shoes around a corner, the click of the administrator's pen as she waited. Her name tag read, Linda Ashworth, Director of Community Relations, and her smile hadn't wavered in 30 seconds. That kind of smile took practice. Behind Michael, his security chief Marcus Cole shifted his weight. A small movement. 9 years together. That shift meant one thing. Your call. The children, Michael said quietly. How many are expecting me? Linda's smile flickered before resetting. We've prepared the East Wing recreation room. 43 children, their families, staff, and the local media pool. Channel 4, Channel 9, the Tribune. How many are too sick to leave their rooms? The question landed like a stone in still water. There are some, yes. The oncology ward has several who are bedbound. Yes. How many? She glanced at her clipboard. 11, but the recreation room setup allows for optimal coverage. Optimal for whom? The corridor seemed to narrow. One of the publicity managers, a man in a charcoal suit named David, stepped forward with palms raised. Mr. Jackson, the foundation invested significantly in this partnership. Media coverage generates awareness. Awareness generates donations. Donations fund treatments. Surely you understand the bigger picture. I understand fundraising. Michael's voice stayed soft. It always did. I've raised more by accident than most campaigns raise on purpose, but I didn't come here to be photographed. Nobody spoke. 4 seconds of silence, an eternity in negotiation. The air conditioning clicked on somewhere above them, pushing cold air through vents that hadn't been cleaned in months. Michael could smell it. Recycled hospital air, antiseptic underneath, and something else. Something he'd learned to recognize years ago in wards just like this one. The smell of people holding on. And in that gap, something shifted. But here's what nobody in that hallway knew yet. 3 weeks earlier, a letter had arrived at Michael's office. Lavender paper, no return address. The handwriting was slow, careful, the penmanship of someone whose hands don't always cooperate. Dear Mr. Jackson, my name is Emma. I'm 9 years old. I've been in the hospital for 7 months. The walls are green here, and I don't like green, but I don't complain because the nurses are nice. My mom says you help kids like me sometimes. I don't need help. I just wanted to tell you that when I listen to your music, I forget I'm sick, even if just for one song. The doctors say I need to stay positive. Your music helps me do that. P.S. I know you won't read this. That's okay. Writing it made me happy. Michael had read it 11 times. Each time, he noticed something new. The way her letters got smaller toward the end, like her hand was getting tired. The slight smudge near positive, where she'd paused. His assistant Grace had traced it, not to ask for anything, just to know. Emma Chen, 9 years old, a severe childhood cancer, stage 4, room 407, East Wing, St. Catherine's Children's Hospital, the same hospital whose administrator now stood before him, clipboard raised like a shield. Linda Ashworth checked her watch. The cameras were waiting. The banner was hung. 43 children sat in the recreation room wearing paper crowns someone had made that morning. Everything was on schedule, except the guest of honor wasn't moving. Mr. Jackson, perhaps we can compromise. 3 minutes with the media, then... No. The word was quiet. Final. Linda's smile finally cracked. The board expects coverage. We've made commitments. Channel 4 has a satellite window in 20 minutes. Then you should go explain the change. David stepped closer. With respect, your foundation agreed to visibility benchmarks. It's in the contract. Section 4, paragraph... I don't have a foundation. David paused. I'm sorry. I don't have a foundation. I have accountants who move money where I tell them, and lawyers who remind me what I've signed. Michael tilted his head slightly. What I don't have is a contractual obligation to perform for cameras in a hospital where children are dying. Wait. Look at Linda's face in this moment. The mask slipped. Just for a second. Behind the lipstick smile and the community relations title, something real flickered. Frustration, yes, but also something else. Fear. Her job depended on deliverables. Michael understood that. He didn't blame her, but he also wouldn't bend. "I'll visit the recreation room," he said. "Without cameras. I'll spend time with every child who wants to see me. And then," he paused, "I'll visit the 11 who can't leave their beds, privately. No photographers, no press, no board members watching through windows. Those are my terms." Linda looked at David. David looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at the wall. The fluorescent hum filled the silence. 1 hour later. Room 407 was smaller than Michael expected. A single window faced the parking lot. The blinds were half drawn, casting strips of afternoon light across the linoleum floor. Medical equipment beeped softly, the rhythm of a body fighting, a sound Michael had heard too many times in too many rooms. A child's drawing was taped to the wall, a yellow sun, green grass, a stick figure with long hair. Underneath, in crayon, "Me when I go home." Emma Chen was asleep when he entered. Her mother sat in the corner chair, a paperback open on her lap but unread. She looked up when the door whispered open. Her eyes went wide. Michael raised a finger to his lips. "Don't wake her." He crossed the room slowly, pulled a plastic chair beside the bed, and sat down. For a long moment, he simply watched Emma breathe. Her hair was gone. A thin tube ran to her arm. On her bedside table, a glass of water, a stuffed rabbit missing one ear, and a small CD player with headphones. He recognized the album in the case. His album. Something tightened in his chest. Noticed the quiet. No cameras clicking, no publicity people hovering, no contracts or coverage benchmarks. Just a man, a sleeping child, and the hum of machines keeping her alive. Emma's mother hadn't moved. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she made no sound. Michael reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded piece of lavender paper. He placed it gently on the bedside table beside the rabbit. Then he began to hum. Soft, almost inaudible. A melody Emma would know, the one she said made her forget she was sick. He didn't sing the words. Words weren't needed. The melody was enough. It filled the small room like light fills a window, gradual and warm. Emma's mother pressed her hand to her mouth. The machines kept beeping. The world outside kept turning. But in room 407, time had decided to be kind. 3 minutes passed, maybe 4. Emma stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, confused at first, then focusing. She saw a stranger sitting beside her bed. No, not a stranger. Her lips parted. No sound came. Michael smiled, the same smile he'd given thousands of fans, but different now, smaller, realer. "Hi, Emma." She blinked, then slowly she smiled back, a gap-toothed grin that transformed her whole face. "You read my letter?" 11 times. Her eyes widened. "Really?" "Really." She looked at the lavender paper on her table, then back at him. "My hands shake when I write now. Mom helped with the envelope. It was the best letter I've ever received." "You're lying." "I'm not." Emma studied him, the frank, unfiltered assessment only children are capable of. Then she nodded, apparently satisfied. "You look taller on TV." Michael laughed, a real laugh, unguarded. "Everyone says that." "Are you going to sing?" "Do you want me to?" She considered this with tremendous seriousness. Then, "Maybe later. Right now, can you just stay?" One breath, one word, one decision. Yes. Outside room 407, 20 minutes later, Linda Ashworth stood at the nurse's station, receiver pressed to her ear. The call wasn't going well. "I understand the board's concerns, but he was very clear. No, I couldn't. Yes, I tried." She glanced down the corridor toward room 407. The door was still closed. No sound from inside. David had already left. The camera crews had packed up and driven away, footageless, muttering about wasted satellite time. The recreation room children had met Michael for 45 minutes. No photos, but plenty of magic tricks, whispered jokes, and signed paper crowns. He'd knelt on the floor to be at eye level. He'd remembered names. He'd asked questions and actually listened to the answers. Several parents had cried. One father had simply stood in the corner and stared, unable to process the surreality. A boy in a wheelchair had asked Michael to sign his cast. Michael had drawn an entire cartoon instead, complete with speech bubbles. Now, Michael was somewhere in the oncology ward, moving room to room, and Linda's career was possibly ending in slow motion. But here's the part you shouldn't miss. As Linda listened to the board chairman express disappointment, a nurse named Dolores walked past. Dolores had worked pediatric oncology for 31 years. She'd seen children arrive and leave, sometimes walking, sometimes not. She'd held parents during the worst moments of their lives. Very little surprised her anymore. But she paused by the nurse's station, touched Linda's arm, and said something the administrator would remember for the rest of her career. "I've seen a lot of famous people come through here. Politicians, athletes, actors. They stay 10 minutes, get their photo, leave. That man has been in room 407 for half an hour. The girl is laughing. I can hear her through the wall." Dolores squeezed Linda's arm. "Let the board be angry. Some things matter more." Then she walked away. Linda lowered the receiver. The chairman was still talking, but she'd stopped listening. Through the wall, faintly, she heard something impossible, a child's laughter in the oncology ward. 3 hours later, parking garage, level B2, Michael walked toward the waiting SUV, Marcus 2 steps behind. The concrete smelled like exhaust and damp and something metallic. Their footsteps echoed against the low ceiling. A single fluorescent tube flickered overhead, buzzing like an insect. Michael's legs ached. 3 hours of sitting in plastic hospital chairs, kneeling beside beds, crouching to meet eyes that looked up at him with something he'd never get used to. Hope. 11 rooms, Marcus said. 3 hours, no press. Yes. The board's furious. David called twice. He's talking about breach of contract. Let him talk. They reached the vehicle. Marcus opened the rear door, but Michael paused before getting in. The girl in 407, Emma. What about her? Michael looked at the concrete floor, then up at the flickering fluorescent light above, the same frequency as the hospital corridor, the same hum that most people tuned out. Find out what she needs. Treatment, specialists, equipment, whatever it is. Handle it quietly. No announcements, no foundation press releases. Just handle it. Marcus nodded. He didn't write it down. He didn't need to. And Marcus? Yeah? The letter she wrote. She said writing it made her happy. Michael's voice was barely audible now. Make sure she has whatever she needs to keep writing. Good paper, nice pens, even if her hands shake. Done. Michael climbed into the SUV. The door closed. The engine started. As they pulled out of the garage, Marcus handed him a folded note. Grace called the car phone while you were inside. She wrote it down. Michael read it. Board threatening to pull partnership. Publicity disaster. David says you've made powerful enemies. What should I tell them? He took a pen from his jacket and wrote one line on the back. Tell them I'll be back next month. Same terms. He handed the note back to Marcus. Call her. Then he leaned back and closed his eyes. In room 407, 5 floors above the parking garage, Emma Chen was showing her mother the lavender letter, the same one she'd sent 3 weeks ago, now returned with a small addition at the bottom. In handwriting as careful as her own, someone had written, P.S. I did read it, and it made me happy too. MJ. The machines beeped, the fluorescent lights hummed, and somewhere in the hospital, a child who'd forgotten she was sick, even if just for an afternoon, held a letter to her chest and smiled. Some visits don't need cameras, some moments don't need witnesses, some things matter more.